So over the last few months, I've been rewatching the Fairy Tail anime, and mainly, I wanted to get to Key to the Starry Heavens, as I remember when I first got through Fairy Tail, I wasn't the biggest fan of that arc. I liked the twist at the end with the reveals of the Oracion Seis returning. However, I wasn't a fan of the arc overall and thought it was kind of boring, making me want to skip it every rewatch, despite it being actually canon to the story. Which is very interesting, because Hiromashima actually originally planned to make Key to the Starry Heavens an arc in the manga, but by the time Tamarill Island ended, he ended up deciding to make it an anime original thing, because he wanted to go straight to the Grand Magic games. And since the anime was very close to the manga, he decided to help pen out the entirety of that arc for the anime to adapt, in order to give it more time to catch up to the manga, which ended up working out relatively well, and was also called back to in the rest of the anime and even a bit of the manga. It even adds more context for future stuff regarding the Grand Magic games as well, with specific pieces of information and the Oracion Seis as a whole. And since I've been making a bunch of Fairy Tail videos, I wanted to go back and rewatch that arc and see my thoughts after leaving it for a bit and revisiting it, now that I have a better grasp of Fairy Tail and just stories in general and watching a bunch of different shows, as I really do want to give this a fair shake and give it an actual honest review on my clear thoughts on it. But before we jump into this video, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really helps and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. Also, I'm partnered with Advanced GG, so if you want some really great energy supplements for working out, getting extra focus while doing work, getting extra energy, or even just basic hydration, go check out the link down below and get 10% off your order with the referral link, or use GreekWeeb10 at checkout to get about 10% off on your orders. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Now then, on to the video. So let me just state this. I think this arc could have been maybe 2 to 3 episodes shorter, mainly because it felt like it was dragging a bit at the beginning, but the second we got towards the tomb and the reveal of the Oracion Seis, the pacing started to pick up a lot more. But what I liked about this arc was the underlying mystery that it was building up for. Between the Infinity Clock, why Lucy was left it, and the mystery of what the clock is, why it was split up into pieces, and the entire Church of Zentopia looking for it as well, and certain weird coincidences that were happening across the nation in regards to the Infinity Clock. And everything starts off with Michelle Lobster showing up at the Fairy Tail Guild Hall to give the piece of the Infinity Clock that Lucy's late father managed to find in an archaeological site to her to give to Lucy. And I like how this added a whole big comedic moment with Natsu trying to fight Loxus and getting one shot. I found that funny. But the actual thing about this clock hand and the inevitable conflict with the Legion Platoon, which is Earthland's version of characters that we've met in Edalus, which I think is a really cool callback to that arc and gives us the answers of what do the Earthland versions of these characters look like. And they look relatively the same, except for Sugar Boy, who is just like an Elvis Presley impersonator and has this weird, I don't know, I'm just gonna say snot power. And Byro looking completely different. The man is tall and jacked. And he also has a giant, well, octopus creature, which is always fun. But the arc basically just starts off with them learning about the Key to the Starry Heavens story that Lucy used to read as a kid, finding information to discover stuff going on with the Infinity Clock, facing other members of the Legion Platoon, and then the guild basically splitting up to find different pieces of the clock. Now, this ends up leading to a very good amount of conflict with members of the Legion Platoon, and giving us pretty nice pairings, even giving certain characters some more time to actually do stuff. Primarily Romeo, and even Team Shadowgear to an extent, even though they do end up failing if it wasn't for Gagio and Lily being there. My least favorite part is definitely Erza, Wendy, and Kanda's group going to the library to discover stuff about the clock piece and having to confront the Jigglebutt gang. Look, I like the puns, I like the memes, but I really don't like the Jigglebutt gang. I know it's a reference to Rave Master, Mashima's other work. I've read a little bit of it and I put it on hold for now because I want to focus on Fairy Tail for now and other things for the channel, but I know that they were just thrown in as a joke characters for the MCs to basically beat up for like a pun for like a chapter or two. as like their goofy Team Rocket equivalent, and this is a reference to it basically, but I wasn't the biggest fan of it, even though there were some funny moments with just Erza's interaction with them and how she almost like breaks their whole worldview on their spandex. I found that funny, and how she got really into it for some unknown reason. I think I agree with everyone. I don't want to see Wendy in that spandex, honestly. I didn't really like it. It just felt like a waste of time. Mira, Elfman, and Lozana's group, really cool, and we got to see Mira fighting her own Satan soul and having to use another takeover that she's had in reserved. And I like the gag where it's one of her strongest, but Makarov literally just forbade her from using it because of its destructive power. And also it just makes her want to scold people to the point of destruction, as she basically scolded and destroyed an entire town on a mission. I found that funny. And it fits Mira's just big sister demeanor, and basically saying that this version just amps it up a lot more. I just found it funny, and it was a relatively satisfying fight. Samuel and Panther Lily's interactions and little rivalry that they were building up for, and like camaraderie as like quote unquote brothers, I found really cool. I liked that we got more X-Seeds, especially one that could actually like do a body transformation to fight in actual hand-to-hand combat like Lily. I found that really cool, and I like Samuel's whole thing about like going between logic and calculations and just what he personally believes, and how throughout the course of this arc, up until the Infinity Clock being brought together, has been questioning the logic behind the Archbishop, his decisions, and the Legion Platoon's actions in finding the Infinity Clock. Primarily, the inconsistency of looking for this clock and just not just leaving it in place. I like how Leon also just jumped into the plot at random to help out Gray and Juvia, and they ended up finding their clock piece and had to fight Sugar Boy. It ended up being relatively funny to an extent, and I found it very interesting that Mashima decided to make Sugar Boy just have a crush on Gray. I don't know why. I kinda like it. I don't know why, even though it just came out of nowhere, but it is what it is. I actually liked Natsu's group's whole exploration of that entire tomb, and the interactions with Dan Straight, which I found his original character, and as his name is Dan Straight, that's just funny because I keep thinking damn straight, and I'm like, you know what, that phrase also fits this character immediately. And it was basically Sanji, but more delusional, not really that perverted. I found that guy kind of funny. I liked his whole thing where he had a shield that bounced back magic, and he had a spear that could increase or decrease the size of things. I found that really cool. Coco's whole conflict with what's going on with the Legion Platoon, Byro's blind loyalty, I thought was really interesting, and how, heck, Happy came in with an argument over the difference between what the Legion Platoon are doing and what Wizards are doing with helping people in exchange for money. I found that pretty cool and interesting, even though I do think we could have explored this a bit more. But I do like that this adds some questionings to what the church is doing in general. But the main thing I want to just state I liked was the Oracion Seis, because they built up this mystery of who the slot machine guy is from the very start of this arc, destroying churches, seemingly for the Church of Zentopia. And then we end up basically getting the reveal that the Oracion Seis managed to escape prison due to Master Zero, his clone type thing, being created by Midnight somehow, and breaking them out of prison, leaving fakes so that their escape would be unknown. That definitely should have been explained a bit more. I do have my issues with how they escaped. It makes sense for how they basically tricked people into thinking that they were still in prison. My issue is not actually telling us how exactly they escaped fully and how they got that Master Zero doll in the first place. But that's something, maybe I missed it. Let me know in the comments if it was explained and I'm missing it. But either way, the reveal of the Oracion Seis being back was actually pretty cool, because this actually helps explore a bit more of their mentality, why they want the clock, why they want to bring things into chaos essentially with the Infinity Clock, and them essentially giving up pieces of themselves for power. And I found that very interesting, and it helped explore more of what was set up in the Oracion Seis arc about them being basically slaves in the Tower of Heaven, and their own traumas and wishes that were come out from that whole horrifying experience when they were children, and eventually Brain basically giving them this grand illusion to get back at the world in order to get potentially what they want in life with these magical powers. I found that very interesting, and I think this arc expands on that a lot more and makes the Oracion Seis more fleshed out characters. Also, I like the brand new abilities, the fact that Racer's ability is actually speed based, and the whole thing was that his whole mentality of wanting speed is so he could run away from people, and I like how Mira was the one to actually fight him. That fight was really cool, and how when Racer was beat down he was trying to get away and Mira stating, "There's nobody chasing you anymore, why are you running?" That did cut deep for me. I loved it, especially knowing Racer's past and how it was reaffirmed in this arc. Angel's whole delusion of wanting to be an angel and not viewing herself as human anymore, wanting to fly into the sky, and even using this angel magic which took up her lifespan in order to actually use this power, but it turned out that they were just parasites feeding off her magic power and her life to the point where it was literally destroying her. That fight with Gray and Dan against her was really, honestly really good, and how they basically snapped her out of her grand delusions that she crafted for herself. It was really nice, and it felt a lot more satisfying than in the Oracion Seis arc, despite the Oracion Seis arc being big moments for Lucy, and the differences between how these two celestial wizards treat their spirits and how they view things, and how it helped further develop Lucy. But this fight further developed Angel, and I really did appreciate it. The whole Aragorn thing I found was really, honestly, did not expect. He was someone that just came back out of nowhere because in the manga it was stated that he escaped. Mashima wanted to bring him back at some point. This was a good time for him to do so, and his whole thing where he gave up his memories for power, and how he fought Wendy and Bixlow, and how he ended up losing in the end of the day, was just Wendy healing him and jogging back his memory. I found it pretty interesting, and I like that it also showed that Aragorn did have some sort of fondness for his guildmates back in the Eisenwald arc at the very beginning of the story. I found that pretty cool, and I did enjoy it. Cobra and Erza's fight was really fun to watch, and how Erza manages to take out Cobra, and feeding more into Cobra's wants of not being alone and wanting to find his long lost friend, and the build up from the beginning, once the essential Infinity Clock was being assembled and brought together, with the mystery of who Kinana is, this random girl that showed up after Edelis and then was shown to us again after we got back from Tenro Island at the start of the time skip, giving her more character and showing that she has ties to Cobra, that she was cursed as a child to become a snake. She has no memories of her time as a snake. All she knows is that she wants to find her closest friend ever, and Cobra wants to find her. And their reunion at the end was just very heartbreaking and kind of sweet at the same time. Cobra and Kinana instantly knowing who each other are, and Cobra deciding to lie so that they don't arrest Kinana for no reason. I like that, and it shows that Cobra essentially got his wish at the end of the day, which is pretty cool considering that he does have an integral role for the rest of the story compared to the rest of the Seis for the most part. But yeah, I like that instance, that conclusion to the fight, and his character for that moment was honestly really nice. I enjoyed it a lot. Now Midnight, his fight with Natsu was honestly really cool. And even at the end, despite the fact that he somehow made his abilities to get stronger take a possibility and make it impossible in terms of like him never seeing his father again. I don't know how that works, but he became stronger and started using Zero's powers, which I found really cool alongside his own abilities. That was definitely interesting and made Midnight much more of a capable combatant and gave Natsu a lot of trouble. And I like how at the end of the day, Natsu wasn't able to beat him without Lucy's help at the end of the day. So that was definitely something I found very much appreciated. Now I danced around this, the whole big plot twist and reveal of Michelle actually being Imitatia, the actual secret member of the Oracion Seis, the Neo Oracion Seis, and that she's been helping manipulate things in the background and leading them to the Infinity Clock from the very beginning, was definitely a well done twist. And once we got the whole Gildarts and Loki situation where they found the real Michelle, definitely built that up for the initial reveal. And the fact that the Oracion Seis were using like Midnight's Nightmare magic to control the Archbishop and by extension the Legion platoon in Byro was definitely something that I really did enjoy, showcased that they knew what they were doing the entire time. Destroying the churches, adding a bit more mystery, and just setting things up by manipulating Fairy Tail and the Legion platoon to gather the pieces together. And once those pieces were together, the Oracion Seis ended up leading out to take out Celestial Wizards specifically with body link magic that kept the clock's power sealed, which was very interesting and I really liked it. Now before I dive more into that aspect, which I started to do so, Michelle and Lucy's relationship was done so damn well. I really felt like they were bonding. Their bond felt incredibly genuine. The mishaps, the whole weird gorging herself on food every instant she got, looking up to Lucy, they really started to feel like actual family and sisters, and that initial betrayal definitely hurt. And the reveal at the end of the day that she was Lucy's old doll that was given to her by her parents as a gift and treated like a little sister when she was just a little kid. And then after her mother's death, she just never looked at the doll again because it kept reminding her of her mother, and she eventually forgot about it. Until many years later, where Midnight used his new magic to essentially give the doll life, making the memories implanted in that doll full on into her own personality, and using her to get close to Jude Hartfilia, Lucy's father, to the point where on his deathbed he realized what was going on, and that also hurt so much. And with the reveal at the end that Lucy would have merged with the clock and ended up just not seemingly existing anymore, that broke Michelle's heart, and her just going in to try and free Lucy, saying this isn't what she wanted, was just amazing. How she got taken out by Midnight, heartbreaking. And at the end with the reveal with Lucy in the Infinity Clock, with Michelle's essential spirit showing her what was going on, that definitely broke my heart. I loved every second of Michelle and Lucy's relationship and how this built out through the entirety of the arc. That out of the way, because I don't want to dwell on stuff that would probably make me cry if I think about it more. The entirety of the Oracion Seis plan was actually pretty cool. I liked how they manipulated both Fairy Tail and Legion platoon to have conflict with each other, to gather all the pieces of the clock together in one singular spot, and then once the clock pieces came together, they each put their own seal of these 6 demons onto it so that they would have full authority and control over the clock once it was brought out. The whole buildup of Will Neville, the book that he left behind, and the secret meaning of how Key to the Starry Heavens that book ended, as well as just utilizing these Celestial Wizards, the ending of it to essentially get rid of the majority of Celestial Wizards on the planet, getting rid of their magic power, making it more convenient, but also a lot more making sense of Yukino and Lucy being 2 of the only real Celestial Spirit Wizards alongside Hisui showing up ending Grand Magic games, and for the most part, for the story, outside of Brandish to an extent. She can use Celestial Magic to an extent, but yeah, that was definitely something I wasn't fully expecting, and this does add more into Grand Magic games with the Celestial Spirit aspect. And the fact that this got messed to come back into the story, have him take part in the plot, deal with his whole basic survivor's guilt of getting rid of Fairy Tail in that aspect, not being able to help Fairy Tail in their last moments before disappearing for 7 years, becoming a drunk. It was fitting. It was fitting. It was building up to a good character moment for Mest, and how he went on to try and help Lahar's investigation and help people, and how he's come to terms with everything that's occurred. I do have to say, Lahar, you really should have told Mest that the old OG members of Fairy Tail showed up at the beginning of the arc, that they were all safe and sound, but I guess you wanted him to work through his grief on his own? Questionable decision making there. But that aside, I liked his whole interaction with Racer, with the Celestial Spirit Mage that he went to go and save. I liked all of that. And I also like how this arc gave side characters, the members of Fairy Tail that were there for the 7-year gap, actual time to do stuff. Mainly Romeo, Max to an extent, and Locky. Locky and Gildarts being a pairing was interesting, and it led to just the inevitable reveal of what could be built up and revealed with not just Master Zero, but also with Michelle, aka Imitatia. I like that build-up of the mystery and their discoveries. I think it was done very well, and it's also a pairing that I wasn't expecting. Speaking of pairings, when basically everybody was being paired off by Kana to go off and fight the Oracion Seis members, take on those members, and even try and stop the destruction of churches and potentially the Celestial Spirit Mages from losing their body link magic to keep the seal on the Infinity Clock active, Kana being manipulated in her sleep to give the wrong and worst possible matchups for each team's fights against the Oracion Seis members was really well done. It was definitely built up with how the Archbishop was not sleeping well and how he was slowly going insane, and how it was even slowly stated that Kana was sleeping a lot or not sleeping too well. That was definitely a subtle thing that can really be caught up on, and that I did miss that upon viewing, and then I went back and I'm like, oh, this makes complete sense. And I like how all these teams basically lost their matchups outside of Juvia and Gajiel and Big Slow and Wendy. Wendy won because of her healing magic and her kindness, and Big Slow backing her up, despite them basically losing and getting overpowered in that fight. But Gajiel and Juvia beating this prisoner from Zentopia that was brought onto the Legion Platoon thanks to manipulation from the Oracion Seis, whole big thing, they won because Gajiel and Juvia work as such a good team. Gajiel and Juvia know each other's whole movesets so well due to their time in Phantom Lord. They know each other better than everybody else in Fairy Tail, and it makes sense that Gajiel was keeping him distracted while Juvia was utilizing the water in the area to defeat him. It was perfect planning and perfect teamwork. I loved it, and it makes me want to see more Juvia Gajiel team-ups in the future, because I think this was very well done. We also got the exploration of the Legion Platoon throughout the arcs, how they feel about the events that are transpiring between their own visions of right and wrong and Byro's blind loyalty. It was very cool, and I loved Byro's fights against Gildarts. Also, I love that Gildarts actually got to do stuff, because after his whole introduction, Gildarts only really did stuff in including this, 3 arcs. Tenro Island, right now Key to the Starry Heaven, and then the final arc of the story. I get you don't want essentially the strongest member of Fairy Tail around for a good chunk of the story, it lowers the stakes, but as shown in this arc, you can have him in an arc, have him fight a powerful enemy, and not have him lower the stakes of the arc. I think Gildart's handling was done very well. And the whole concept of the Infinity Clock in general, very interesting. The ability to manipulate people's perception of time and how that can affect their mentality and how they view things, and just throws everything into disarray, and the initial comedic, to an extent, just chaos that it was ensuing upon everybody in the world. I really did like, and the comedy usage of it was hilarious in my opinion. But this also ties into the theme of post-time skip up through the end of Grand Magic Games New Dragon King Festival, and that is lost time. And this arc perfectly showcases the gap between Team Fairy Tail, the members of Fairy Tail from Temporal Island, and the differences with people that were still around. From their fights with the Oracion Seis, who got so much exponentially stronger, to the strength of just in general the Legion Platoon, to Byro, it shows they still need to play catch up. It adds more to what would end up being in their training with Grand Magic Games, that they're 7 years behind so many different characters, and that they're a lot weaker than they should be. And yes, they did win at the end of the day, but a lot of it was due to teamwork, Erza getting that weapon from those archaeology guys, and Natsu won because Lucy used her powers to bring Natsu back when she was merged with the Infinity Clock in order to finish off Midnight. All the fights made sense because at the end of the day, it was not just the lost time of Team Fairy Tail, but to an extent the lost time of the Oracion Seis. They lost their lives because of they lost the time of their lives because of the Tower of Heaven because of the time as the Oracion Seis, they never truly got to live their lives. They were focused on their individual prayers to such an extreme degree that they were doing such horrible things. They never truly enjoyed their lives. And it's even more shown with Angel than the others, with how she was giving up her own life, her own time to these Angel magic user ability through each usage. It ties perfectly into how Post Timeskip is about lost time, and this whole arc theming around time in general nails that home, makes things pretty obvious with how things are going to play out with the future, especially considering that the end of the Grand Magic Games with the Dragon King Festival focuses around time travel and stuff like that, which I'll get into at some point. If I want to do arc by arc videos at some point, let me know if you guys want that. But this arc in general, I enjoyed a lot more than I did when I was younger. I do think it was slower. You can cut out the Jigglebutt gang. I'm not a big fan of it. If you like the Jigglebutt gang, that's perfectly fine. I enjoy the meme. I just think they bogged down the story to an extent, and I think the gathering of the clock pieces could have been a lot quicker. Maybe if this was in manga form, Masha would have got through this a lot quicker, but this was made for the anime to expand out. Either way, it was still a pretty easy watch for me at the end of the day, a nice 22 episodes. I enjoyed it overall, even if it was a bit slow at the beginning, but the themes of it, the characterization for the Oracion Seis, building up their characters and what they've lost and what they're yearning for, showcasing how Team Fairy Tail is definitely a lot more behind from other people, thanks to the 7-year gap, adding more to Lucy and her character with her relationship with her father, finding genuine connection with Michelle, the betrayal, and the heartbreak from that. This was definitely overall a good arc. I really enjoyed it. And I would definitely recommend people who have only read the Fairy Tail manga to watch this, because it adds more context and build up to the Grand Magic Games and how eventually Fairy Tail will have to get a boost in power in order to keep up and even showcase their strength to the rest of the world in the Grand Magic Games. And it also shows us what was going on with Mess and the Oracion Seis during this gap in time before we got to the Grand Magic Games, and gave us more time and build up to their full-on return in the next arc. But those are just my thoughts and opinions on the Key to the Starry Heavens arc or Key to the Starry Sky arc. Let me know what you guys think of it in the comment section down below, and if you guys want me to do more videos like this in the future. I'm actually planning to do another video like this with the Eclipse Celestial Spirit arc, because I was also told in my Celestial Spirits Explained video that that arc is also canon by Mashima, by him just stating that this is canon. And I do want to rewatch it, see if there's stuff, like important information that I missed from it, and if I also enjoyed that arc more now than I did when I was younger, because I did not enjoy that arc when I was younger, and I skipped it whenever I did a rewatch. So now, I want to see how this is going to play out, if I will enjoy that as well. But let me know what you guys thought of this video, and if you want more videos like this, look forward to the Eclipse Celestial Spirit video at some point. I might make multiple videos on that topic at some point as well after that initial video, and future concepts and discussion points like this. And if you want to know when I upload next time, like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates whenever I upload future videos. Helps and shows you guys enjoy the Fairy Tail content I'm making here on the channel, and shows you want to see more. Honestly, I didn't fully explain the Infinity Clock itself. That deserves an entire video in and of itself.